At this time, I'd like to go over a couple of the sum and the average functions, primarily sum functions. Alright, so first off, let me describe the data set. This data set that exists over here on the right hand side of the sheet is a list of transactions that reflect a salesperson selling a product in a given quantity on a given date. So for example, this first row says that the salesperson Betsy on 4/1/2014 sold lip gloss, 45 units of that for a certain dollar amount. Now the first thing that we can do is we can, over here on the left hand side, ask questions like how many did a given salesperson like Emily, how much in terms of dollar volume did that person sell? And in order to answer that, we need to use the sum function. And not just the sum function, a version of that that's the sum if. So it's a conditional sum rather than just a regular sum, which we would use to just get one continuous block of numbers. So if I type in sum if, and the first thing I need to do, well, first off, let me point out the three different things that are listed there as arguments for the sum if function: the range, the criteria, and the sum range. And actually, let me start off with the last one and say the sum range is the thing that I want to sum up, and so that's the thing that I will do last. The first thing I want to do is highlight the range that has the criteria in it that I'm going to filter based on. And so I want the thing I'm going to filter based on is the salesperson name, which is Emily, and that happens to be in the column that is called name. So I'm going to first select the range that is in. So I'll do Control Shift down and then hit comma. Now it so happens that this particular range has already been given a name, and it's called name. So if it hadn't been given a name already, it would show E5 through something else. Alright, the criteria that I'm looking for, I could either type in Emily or because I want to use a little trick in Excel, I can also just select the name that's next to me, and it's A5. Now I want to select as the sum range, the thing I want to sum up, which is dollars. So I select all of that. There's my formula, and there's my answer. If I hit Control tilde up in the left side of my keyboard, it shows to me what the formula is that I've typed in, and I actually want to repeat it for everything else that's in that column. So I'm going to drag that down all the way through CC, and then it picks up again the things that are in the left hand side. So if I hit Control tilde again, I now have answers for the question that I would ask using this sum if function. Alright, so that so far has focused on using the dollars column. Let's play with some others and come up with some more complicated things. So for units returned, I want to sum up the items that have been returned, and if I look over in this units column, most of these are positive numbers, but some of them have a negative value in front of them, and so those are the ones that I want to capture. And so there are a couple different ways that I could use this using sum if, so you may choose to do it a little bit differently. I'm going to do it one way, and then I'm going to add a little adjustment to it. So I'm going to do sum if, and the thing that I want to look in is this units column, and it happens to be a named range, and so it substitutes what I highlighted with the word units, but it would be just fine if it was H5 through H whatever the last row is. The criteria that I want to use is I want to look for units where the values are less than 0, so negative values, and the thing that I want to sum up is again units, so this time I'll just type it in. And if I do that, I get negative 922. So that's not exactly the way I'd like to see it with a negative number in front of it, although we can see from the values in there why it sums up to that. And so in order to improve that, I'm going to put a minus sign in front of the word sum if. and then I get what I wanted. Okay, for this next one, I want to find the total dollars sold in the years 2005 or after. So thinking about the problem, the thing I want to sum up is the dollars column, but for dates of transactions that are on or after the January 1st, 2005. So I'll be looking in that date column. So equals sum if, and the range that I want to be looking in, the thing I'm going to be filtering on, is the date column. So I'll highlight that. It happens to be a named range, so it substitutes what I highlighted with the word date. The next thing I want to do is the criteria, and so in this case I want to do greater than or equal to 1/1/2005, and then there's the thing that I want to sum up, which I know is the named range dollars, and I get an answer. Next question, units of lip gloss sold. So this one I want to do the sum of the units column, so as long as there's only one thing that I'm filtering on, I can use the sum if function, and my last argument will be units, and the thing I'm going to be filtering on is the product with the name lip gloss. So I will do equals sum if, and the range that I'm going to be filtering on is lip gloss, or sorry, product, comma, I've highlighted that row, happens to be a named range called product. The criteria is going to be, does it match the word lip gloss, and the thing I want to sum up is the units column. Here's my formula, and there's my sum. Alright, next one. This one is shorthand for the dollar amount of lip gloss sold. So this is actually going to be very similar to the one that came just before it. I'm going to do Control tilde and show the formulas there, and I'm actually going to copy this one to right underneath it because it's very similar to the one before it. The only difference is instead of getting the sum of units, this time I just want to get the dollars column. And if I switched it back and forth, I get what I want. Alright, here's the next one. The sum of the dollars for products not sold by Jen. So however many salespeople there are, it looks like there's at least 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. There's at least 9 different salespeople here. So if it's any of 8 salespeople, I want to count up the dollar amount there. And so I will do equals sum if, and let's see, we want to look for the name column, and now our criteria, in this case we want to say not equal to Jen, and the way that we do that is we say less than greater than. That's kind of a Microsoft Visual Basic programming language type of phrase that means not equal to, and then I'll type the word Jen, and then I want to sum up the dollars column, and if I toggle that I get that amount. Okay, so this next one says the lipstick dollars by Jen. Okay, so that is perhaps phrased a little bit strangely. What it's really saying is I want the sum of the dollars that for the products that are of type lipstick and sold by Jen. Now if you'll notice, there are actually 2 different criteria now in this case, and so what are we going to do about that? Well, we can't use the sum if function anymore, but like many functions in Excel, if you add an S to the original function name, suddenly it's set up for doing multiple criteria. So if I go sum if S and do this, now something very important I should point out is that it says sum range there. So previously in all these other sum if questions, we put the thing that we wanted to sum up last, but we now change it to the very first item when we put the S on there. And so I'm going to type in dollars is the thing that I want to sum up, and then I want to go with the first range that I want to look in, and so let's go look in the product column, and we want to look for lip gloss. And now we want to look, so these things all come in pairs. This next item I want to go with the salesperson, so I'll go with name, and I'll go with Zerit. And if I toggle this, I get an answer. Alright, let's go to the next one. This one is, I'm going to use a different function, which is average. And again, just like sum, you could do a regular sum function, and a regular average function doesn't take more than one thing, more than one argument added to it. But this one is clearly a conditional one, so it's going to lend itself to an average if function. And more than that, we see that there are multiple filters there, and so we're going to, not surprisingly, use a version of average, which is average if s. So this one says the first thing I need to put in is the range of what it is that I want to take the average of. And so I want to do, in this case, units. So what are the units sold? And now I can set out as many pairs of criteria as I would like. And so the first one for the pair of criteria that I'll use is, I'll do with product again. Oops, lip gloss. And like the one above, and then like the one above it, I want the name, which will be Zerit. And let me toggle that. Looks like it's 44. Next one, average units, where it's lipstick and it's Zerit and the units are greater than or equal to 50. So it looks like it's identical to the problem right before it, but now I need to add in something else. So to kind of cheat a little bit here, I'll just drag this down, and then I'm going to just add in another criterion, which is going to be where it's the units will be the column I'm going to look in, and then I want to look for greater than or equal to 50. And if I toggle that, I get average. I had to pause for a second because I said, hey, wait a minute, this mathematically doesn't make sense. It's because I typed it on the wrong row. So technically that goes into this column, or this particular cell, and this one goes back to what it would have been before. Okay, I fixed it. Alright, next item. The dollar amount in lipstick. Well, actually, you know what? I'm going to skip that one for a minute because that's a sum function. Let me just figure out the, finish off with the average functions. Alright, so as it relates to average functions, I will, this next question is the average number of units sold by Jen. Okay, now this one only has one criterion associated with it, and so I will type in equals average, and then I will do if, but I'm only going to filter it based on one thing, so the average if without the yes works fine. And it says that the first thing I should enter in is the range followed by the criteria. Okay, so again, different from the ones that end with an S. Oftentimes these sum if or count if you're familiar with that, a lot of these ones that are conditional, when it's just singular, they do the criteria that you're filtering on as a pair first, and then the thing that you're going to sum up or average or whatever. But if you go to just a singular version of that function, I'm not sure if I said that right. The singular version of these functions, they oftentimes put the thing you're going to sum up last, but the multiple criteria versions of these functions put the thing that you want to sum up first. Since this is a singular version, just look at what it says there. The thing that we're trying to average is coming last, so our criteria columns come first. So the average number of units, I'll grab that first, and we want to oops, sorry, I did that wrong. The thing we want to filter on is based on name. If the name is Jen, then we want the average of dollars. Oh no, not dollars, units. Right. Clear as mud, right? All right, so our filter condition comes first, and then the thing that we wanted to do our calculation on. All right, so let's go up, and just for fun, I put a little extra formula in there just to verify that this math was working correctly. I did the sum if the person was Jen divided by the count if the person's name was Jen, and that gives me the same answer as if I did it that way. All right, so a couple more sum functions. These are going to be sum if s functions, meaning that we have multiple criteria for our sums. So we want the dollar amount of lipstick where the amount is greater than or equal to 100 and the person is Jen. So equals sum if s. Now again, when we have these multiple situations, we put the thing that we want to sum up first, and so in this case it's dollars. We want the dollars if the product is lipstick and the name is Jen and the dollars are greater than or equal to 100. And this next one is going to be similar to that. So I just copied the formula there. I'll reveal the formula, and this time instead of greater than or equal to 100, I want to do less than 100. And if I toggle it, I get a different answer.